Administer fitness test. Here are some questions, some personal information about the client. You can see there's name, address, contact information by mobile and email, their occupation, age, height and weight. I asked them what sports they participated in, what position they played. This is to get an idea of what sort of exercise would be useful to link in with the sport. How long they train for. I asked this a week and how long each training session is. Asked them personally what they think their strengths and weaknesses are, and they said the strength would be stamina, which is obviously quite helpful as football is a long game, and they said a weakness would be power, and they said they perform at amateur level. For some tests, I came up with some tests: the standing vertical jump, standing broad jump, Illinois agility run, yo-yo test, 30-meter sprint, and a T-test. The protocol for a standing vertical jump is to stand on the mat and make sure the string is tight, which is attached to the belt, and use your arms and legs to jump as high as you can. Things that were required for this would be the tacky jump mat. For standing broad jump, you would stand at the end of a tape measure and jump as far as you can forward and take the measurement from the back of your foot where it lands. In this, you can also use your arms and legs to do this as well. Equipment needed would be a measuring tape of at least 4 meters. Then for the Illinois agility run, on the command go, you should start on the go command. The stopwatch is started, and the athlete gets up as quickly as possible and runs around the course in the direction indicated without knocking the cones over to the finish line, at which the timing is stopped. Equipment needed for this is cones, a measuring tape, and a stopwatch. For the yo-yo test, when hearing the beep, run to the other side of the set distance. When you hear the other beep, run back to the other side. Do this every time until you hear the beep, until you can't keep going. To be able to complete this test, you will need a beep test recording, which is easily accessible, cones, and a measuring tape. For the 30-meter sprint, you must stand behind the cone and on the command go, sprint as fast as you can to the other cone. For this, you will need a measuring tape, a cone, and a stopwatch. For the T-test, you must run to the middle cone in front and touch it with your hand. Side step to the cone on the left and touch it with your hand again. Side step back to the middle cone and touch it with your hand. Side step to the white cone and touch it. Then side step back to the middle cone and sprint back to the start cone. These cones would be in the shape of T, hence why it's called a T-test. Equipment needed would be cones, measuring tape, and a stopwatch. Here I asked some health questions, whether they suffered from the following: asthma, bronchitis, heart problems, chest pains, diabetes, high blood pressure, epilepsy, or other. They said they suffered from none, which is very good. I asked them if family members have a past of an illness, if so, what it was. He said it was a heart disease, or possibility of a heart disease, but I would check with his doctor to see if this is true, or get him to check with him. And I said if we're not aware of anything, he is in danger of possibly injuring himself, and he knew this. And I asked him in informed consent, and this just consisted of the answers being true, if he knew the risks involved, knowing he can withdraw at any time, and just agreeing to everything the instructor says, and he has signed it. These are some reasons to defer or to terminate the test: extreme exhaustion, Shortness of breath or difficulty. This could be due to possible asthma, but as he said, he does not suffer from it. Excessive blood pressure. This would be over the top, even if he has done a lot of exercise. This would still be quite serious. An irregular heartbeat. That would mean we'd have to take him straight to the hospital. Client request, of course, like he knows already in the informed consent. Cramp or a pain, and an equipment fail. Here's a risk assessment. Some hazards are pulling a muscle. Controls to be in place would be a warm-up. Another one would be DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. This would be a warm down. DOMS isn't something you can prevent completely, but it would make it less painful after the tests. The next one would be slipping over. This would be having correct footwear. Feeling lightheaded. This might be after the yo-yo test. Controls to be put in place would be plenty of water intake. And for hazards, I have roll ankle. And controls to be put in place, I said correct footwear, because if they are wearing correct footwear, there would be a smaller risk of this happening. I then came up with the components of fitness which are used in the selected tests. For the standing vertical jump, I came up with power. My justification for this would be that I used the standing vertical because my client said that his jumping ability wasn't good. The gold standard for this is the 1 rep max. However, I used the standing vertical jump because it's simulated in a jump when blocking the ball in defence. For the standing broad jump, power is also used. And I used the standing broad jump because my client said that his jumping ability wasn't good, like in the previous one. The golden standard for this is the 1 rep max. However, the standing broad jump, because it's simulated in like a leg running action as you're moving forward. For the Illinois agility run, obviously agility is used. I used this test because agility is used within the sport. This is the gold standard test for this component of fitness and is the best test to measure agility. For the yo-yo test, I use aerobic capacity. I use a yo-yo test to measure aerobic capacity because my client is a games player. The gold standard test is gas analysis, which is where O2 and CO2 levels are measured when being inhaled and exhaled. And I use the yo-yo test because it's an easy and cheap test for measuring aerobic capacity. However, even though it may be not as accurate as the aerobic capacity, as the gas analysis, it's just an easier way to get an estimate. Then for the 30-meter sprint, obviously speed is used in this. And I use the 30-meter sprint because speed is a component of fitness in football. This is the gold standard test for a measurement of speed, as it's the best way to measure it. And for the T-test, agility is the component of fitness. I use the T-test because agility is used within football. And the gold standard test for this component of fitness is the Illinois agility test. However, I use this test to give a variation for the way a player would move. Right, then here's the data collection sheet. As you can see, for the standing vertical jump, in his attempt 1 he got 53, attempt 2 he got 57, and in attempt 3 he got 51. 52 was his best score. In the standing broad jump, he achieved 216 centimeters, then 210, then 226, and attempt 3 was his best. Then in the Illinois agility run, he achieved 17.22 seconds, 17.5 seconds, and 17.38 seconds. As you can see, the first attempt was the better one, as it was the quickest. For the yo-yo test, only one attempt was taken out due to the time that we had, and he achieved a level of 12, which isn't very good, which I'll explain later. For the 30-meter sprint, he achieved 4.55 seconds, 4.26 seconds, and 4.7 seconds. His attempt 2 was the quickest one, which was his best. And for the T-test, in attempt 1, he achieved 10.2, then 11.8, then 10.93, and as you can see, 10.1 was his best as it was the quickest. These are some evidence photos for the tests. Right, these are the client's results and evaluation compared to the average. For the standing vertical jump, the evaluation could be: my client was able to achieve an above average result for the standing vertical jump. As he already has a good result, he wouldn't have to do anything. However, if he wanted to improve this even more, he can do this by doing plyometric training 3 times a week for 6 weeks to help aid this process. Then he can do the test again to see what difference it makes. For the standing broad jump, my client was able to achieve a high score, which was higher than the average. To improve this result, he can also do plyometric training, the same for the standing vertical jump, where he would do plyometric training 3 times a week for 6 weeks, and then redo the test and see the comparison of how much of a difference it is. For agility, my client completed the Illinois agility test by 0.12 seconds behind the average, which isn't a worry, to be honest. It's pretty much the average, so there's nothing. He didn't have to improve if he wanted to, but if he wanted to improve this, he can run 5 miles 2 times a week for 6 weeks to aid the process of getting better results. Oh no, sorry. He can improve this by running ladders 3 times a week for 6 weeks to see improvement. Then repeat the test to see the difference. For the yo-yo test, my client's yo-yo test was quite poor and he achieved below the average. To improve this, he can run 5 miles 2 times a week for 6 weeks to aid the process of getting better results. Then if he feels 5 miles is too easy, he can just build it up as much as he wants, whether he wants to go to 6 miles or 5.5 miles. Just if he feels like it's getting too easy, he can just build the process up. For 30 meters, my client was able to post a quicker time than the average for the 30 sprint. To improve this result, if he wanted to, weight training would be advised of his own chosen weight, as the weight will vary for the client. This would be done 3 times a week for 6 weeks on his legs specifically to improve the power so he can run faster. Then he can also do the test again and just compare his results to see how efficient this training method would be. And finally, for the T-test, my client was able to achieve a faster time than the average in the T-test. To improve, like for the Illinois agility, he can run ladders 3 times a week for 6 weeks to see improvement, then redo the tests just to see how well it has affected him.